Hello guys, good afternoon. So thank you for that introduction. First of all, thank you to the CAF Student Council and to their advisor. Sir Mark, thank you po sa pag-invite sa akin. So, okay, let me start by sharing my screen. Okay, so isang mainit na tanghali sa ating lahat. Sorry na, feeling ko kasalanan ko. So, sure. So, this time we will be discussing about intermediate accounting 3 midterm review. So that will cover non-financial liabilities and leases. So, para fresh ang ating mga knowledge about this topic. So, first of all, provision. So it is important for us to always remember kung ano ba ang elements ng isang provision, contingency, diba? So for non-financial liabilities, always remember that, of course, there are not financial liabilities. When we say financial liabilities, there is always a contractual obligation. So contracts are very much important when considering it. So mamaya makikita nyo kung ano pa yung ibang types ng liabilities na pwede nating ma-count under non-financial liabilities. So okay, for provisions, there should be a present or legal constructive obligation. It should be probable and it can be estimated reliably. So unlike other liabilities, ang thing lang with provisions is there's a bit of uncertainty when it comes to the happening of the event or the probability and the estimation or the amount. So yan. In this topic, we will be covering a lot of concepts that will be or that is discussed in IFRS 15, revenue from contracts with customers. So what I want you to remember when it comes to say warranties, premiums, any topics that we have here that includes IFRS 15 is that there is this concept of associating cause and effect. So, mahalaga na laging mong tatandaan na kaya tayo recognize ng estimate for this is because we want to match the expense with the revenue. Diba? And in fact, kasi, there is sorry for the noise, sorry for my dog, medyo nagtatantrum siya ngayon. So, ayan, there is an associating cost, which is the sale, by which the warranty or the premium or yung pagkakaroon natin ng points is hindi siya mag-exist without that sale. So that is the effect. The premium, the warranty, and so on and so forth. Even the deposits and so on. So yeah. Sorry for that. So in my third year class, lagi kong sinasabi sa kanila kung ano ba ang difference ng mga to. Payables, accruals, provisions, contingency, and remote possibility para alam nila how to properly classify each item. So remember, payables are financial liabilities, okay? Because there is a contractual obligation in payables, diba? It is probable, it is measurable, and it is usually invoiced. So very straightforward siya. In this topic, we will be discussing more about other four. So accruals, actually not all accruals are non-financial liabilities, but since most accruals are not invoiced or not formally agreed upon, they are treated dominantly as non-financial liabilities. So they are probable and they are measurable as well. Whereas pag provisions, there's a bit of uncertainty now when it comes to the amount and the timing. So it is probable, yes. Usually when during our time, what was mentioned in our books is that there is more than 50% chance of happening. Yun yung parang criteria natin to say that it is probable. So yeah, it can be estimated reliably as well. It is highly subjective though, and recognize natin siya sa financial statements. So unlike provisions, there are contingencies, which are disclosures lang sa notes to financial statements. So they are just possible, 50% or less chances of happening or winning, but more than 10% chance. So, the thing is, it cannot be estimated reliably. So, dinidisclose lang natin yung possibility na mangyari si contingency sa notes. If it is 10% or below, of course, it is a remote possibility. So, in that case, hindi natin siya dinidisclose or recognize. Yeah. Since hindi naman siya possible of happening. So, when it comes to contingent assets, we have more stringent criteria. It has to be virtually certain, diba? Before we recognize, unlike liabilities. Because in liabilities, we are the one who's obligated. So, ang bare minimum is probable, which are provisions na dapat naka-recognize sa FS. Okay, so next up. So, warranty. So, nag-focus na ako sa mga questions or topics na medyo sketchy sa inyo. So, bear with me if this is like too summarized or too compressed. But yeah, for warranties, there are two types. First is the assurance type warranty, and second is the service type warranty. When we say assurance type warranty, we are just giving warranty or parang assurance for the quality for defects. Yun lang siya. And usually, there is no separate performance obligation for assurance type warranties. Part na siya ng sale na ginawa mo. Diba? So, given that it is provisioned by PAS 37 or PAS 37 or IAS 37. So, under provisions, contingent liabilities, and contingent assets. So, what else? When we're accounting for assurance type warranty, usually apart from the sale, we're just entering a debit to warranty expense and a credit to warranty liability. So, for service type warranty naman, there is a separate performance obligation, which means sold separately yung warranty niya. Therefore, it is governed by IFRS 15, revenue from contracts with customers. And di ba kapag nagre-record tayo ng sale, debit cash, credit sale, meron pang extra, meron pang extra credit to unearned warranty revenue for the portion of the warranty. Kaya nga, di ba sa module natin, sa discussion, as you can see, pinoprorate pa natin yung na-receive nating proceeds over the actual sale and the warranty portion. Okay? So, next. Okay, so these are one of the questions that I received from you guys. So there are two ways of recognizing a warranty liability. First is the discrete method, which are, di ba pag nag-recognize ka ng liability, meron kang credit to warranty liability, ang adjustment mo sa kanya is based on actual cost. So, dinedebit mo si warranty liability and based dun sa actual na cost na na-incur mo. Whereas, for problems na nagsasabi na evenly throughout the period siya na-incur, so, ang method na ginagamit natin usually dito is the box method, as you can see in your screens. So, dapat box yan actually. So, eto, isang box, another box. So, I use triangles kasi to show that it is half. It is half of the box. Diba? So, ang thing kasi with, when it is evenly distributed throughout the period, it talks about the spreading out of the sales. Yan. Kasi diba, as mentioned, ang basis natin dito sa topic na to is associating cause and effect. So, kailangan nating i-base kay sales kung paano natin i-recognize si liability or si expense. So, kapag evenly distributed siya or spread out, meaning yung amount ng sales natin for each month is approximating the mean or the average. That's why every year we tend to average our estimation yan, because of the assumption na evenly siya nag-occur throughout the period. So actually, hindi nyo lang to ngayon may encounter nyo din to sa mga susunod niyang taon sa PUP. So one thing for example is insurance contracts which uses 24th method. Actually, hindi lang 24th method ang ginagamit ng insurance contract. Merong 1/8 method, 1/16 method, and then there is 1/24. So, take this as an example para mas mabilis lang natin mag-gets yung concept ng box method and even distribution. So, ayan. Sa 24th method, there are 12 months in a year, right? Ina-assume niya na lahat ng insurance na naibenta ng January 1 to January 15 ay ma-enter lang ng January 15. Diba? Parang bi-weekly yung recording ng insurance or yung clustering ng mga insurance na naibenta. That's why kapag nagko-compute ng unearned portion ng mga insurance na yon, for example, nagbenta ka ng January 10, so na-recognize yun sa books ng January 15. So kung magko-compute ka ng unearned portion by December 31, ang magiging formula mo is yung contract amount times 23/24. That is because you are assuming na meron pang one period na hindi pa na-earn. And that is the portion nung January 1 to 15, which is ma-recognize mo pa next year. Diba? And why 24? Because there are 12 months in a year and bi-weekly siya. So 2 times 12 is 24. So actually, same concept applies to this, diba? Sa box method. Because as you can see, yung year 1 sales, minumultiply natin siya by 50% and effectively, dapat year 2 na siya natapos. Pero in that case, mayroon pang 50% na i-recognize ng year 3. Assuming that this is a 2-year warranty, okay? So, ibig sabihin, it's like na-move lang ng 6 months yung other 50% na na-recognize mo. Parang first 6 months of the warranty is it's as if wala ka pang i-recognize because you were averaging it. Diba? So, same concept applies with the example na sinabi ko kanina with insurance contracts. Na yung natitirang 1/24 is next year mo pa ma-recognize because deferred pa din siya. Diba? And it-renate mo siya as na-recognize mo lang every 15th of the month. So, I hope that that explains it. So, mamaya may papakita naman akong link in case medyo sketchy pa yung discuss ko. At least you can have some reference na pwede niyong tingnan or basahin. Yun. So, purely Tagalog yung explanation doon. So, I think ma-appreciate niyo din siya. Okay. Next is an example. So, yeah. Alam ko meron na rin at sa module niya, so papasadahan ko na lang siya. So assuming na there are 1 million for year 1 sales and there is 2 million for year 2 sales, and ang estimated niya na warranties are 5% for year 1 and 10% for year 2. So let's see. Okay, so for year 1, you just multiply 1 million by 5% times 50%. And then yun lang yung i-recognize mo for year 1, for actual year 1, na based sa year 1 sales. For the next year, tsaka mo i-recognize yung 50% nun, which is 25K then. And then you'll get to recognize the next one based dun sa 2 million. Ay, based dun sa 10% na, rather. Dun sa year 2 percentage natin. So that's 1 million times 10% times 50%. Okay, that's 50,000. All right, and then pagpatak ng year 2, you'll have to recognize the warranty then based dun sa year 2 sales. So you'll multiply 2 million by 5% times 50%. So that's 50,000. So your total warranty liability na i-recognize mo for year 2 is yung 50% nung from year 1 sales, yung 50% nung for year 1 sales na for year 2 na percentage, and yung 50% ng year 2 sales based dun sa first year niya na percentage. So I hope nasa same page pa rin tayo. So pag inad mo na sa year 2, you'll just add those 25 plus 50 plus 50. Then you'll get 125,000. Of course, for year 1, yung 50% na ng year 1 sales. So that's 25,000. So ganun lang yung process. Tuloy nyo lang siya hanggang sa matapos yung warranty. And then, as you can see, for checking, 15% ng 1 million is 150,000. Okay? So, same goes here. 15% ng 2 million is, sorry, this is a typo error. This should be 300,000. So, Ayan. Ayun, so far. So, ito yung sinasabi ko. Tagal mag-next. Yung sinasabi kong reference, nasa next slide. Yeah. So, you may scan through this barcode or go to this link. So, ang cute lang kasi ng discussion niya, parang very Tagalog kung takot tayo sa English terms na highly technical. So, his discussion is well-versed. Mabilis intindihin. So, ayan. So, far, ibibigay ko naman sa inyo yung material. So, feel free to scan. Okay. So, continuing to the next pain point na na-mention ninyo, present value factors. So, kailan daw tayo gagamit ng annuity due and kailan tayo gagamit ng ordinary annuity? So, annuity due. So, tignan nyo lang kung nasan yung word na annuity. In annuity due, nasa unahan yung annuity. Therefore, babayaran natin yung first, actually, it applies to both one-time payment and periodic payments. Pero let's assume in this discussion that this is a periodic payment. So, kung, for example, kumuha ka ng loan, when it comes to loans na babayaran mo at the beginning of the period, you will use the present value per annuity due. Diba? Nasa unahan yung annuity. Okay? Well, for ordinary annuity, nasa dulo yung word na annuity. So, ang terms niyan, ang contract terms niyan is babayaran mo yung first payment mo at the end of the term. So, in this case, annuity due will be, the first payment will be paid, mag-next yan, on January 1, 2021. For example. But for ordinary annuity, will pay at December 31, 2021. Okay? Kasi nga, kapag annuity due sa unahan, kapag ordinary annuity sa dulo. Okay? So, I'm actually pretty sure na na-discuss na to sa Mathematics of Investment ninyo. So, i-recap na lang natin yung formula. So, times niya lang yung amount sa 1 minus 1 plus interest raised to the negative yung term. Diba? Yung term is, it depends kung semi-annual ba siya, annual ba siya. So, for example, 5 years and annual, so that's 5. If it's biannual or twice a year, then it's 5 times 2, negative 10, diba? Kung monthly siya for 2 years, 2 times 12 is negative 24. So, always remember, kasi ako, as a person, yan yung lagi kong pagkakamali habang nag-exam, bigla akong i-assume lang na once a year lang siya. And then I will realize at the end of it na mali pala yung ginamit kong power. Diba? So, always remember to check first kung anong frequency niya. Diba? And kung ilang taon. Okay, so all over interest times 1 plus interest. So, the reason why there's 1 plus interest is because annuity due siya. So, binayaran mo muna siya at the beginning of the period, di ba? So, yeah. That's the rationale behind that. And then for ordinary annuity, same. Remove mo lang yung 1 plus I. Yan, so far. Okay. So, next, leases na agad tayo. So, for the lessee, ang measurement niya is relative standalone price. Okay? So, kapag available sa standalone price, we use the standalone price. But there are some cases na mahirap matrace si standalone price. If you would remember, in IFRS 13 fair value measurements, there are level 1 inputs which are observable. Level 2 which are meron siyang identical instruments which are directly or indirectly similar sa hinahanap natin. And then there are level 3 which are unobservable inputs. So in that case, IFRS 16 gives us like a practical expedient, meaning parang parang relief option or relief approach para meron tayong maging basis for measurement. So in that case, if inputs are unobservable, pwede nating i-treat yung buong transaction as a lease. a lease transaction. So, ayun. That happens nga again if the transaction has lease and non-lease components pero hindi na natin measure kung sorry for the noise. Ayan, sorry, medyo work yung mga aso ko. So, ayan, pwede mo nang i-treat yung bang transaction as a lease. Ayan, kahit na meron siyang non-lease component. Okay? So, ayan. For recognition, it's just the present value of lease payments plus initial direct costs. So, actually, dun sa present value of lease payments, meron tayong mga payments na recognize na natin at commencement date or nag-exist na siya at commencement date. And there are some parts of this recognition amount na wala pa siya sa commencement date pero kailangan na natin siyang i-account. Okay? So mamaya makikita nyo ang mnemonics ko dyan is FB, GBP, or kung K-drama type or of person or Korean type of person, then Faith Gimbap. If hindi naman kayo into Korean, you prefer English, then 5 British pound sterling because GBP is British pound sterling. Pinahirapan ko pa kayo. 5 gimbap na lang. So mamaya makikita niyo kung ano yung mga yan. Okay. So next up, subsequent measurement of right of use asset. So we will use cost model, meaning we will recognize depreciation on how we usually recognize depreciation, debit depreciation expense, credit, accumulated depreciation. Diba? So, ayun. For subsequent measurement of lease liability, of course, we add any interest, we deduct any lease payments dun sa outstanding balance natin, and then any remeasurement. So, mamaya may mnemonics ulit tayo dyan for remeasurements. Para hindi niya makalimutan kung alin-alin yung mga kailangang remeasure ni Lexi. Okay, so for the lessor, ang mahalagang first step ay i-determine if finance lease ba siya or operating lease siya. So when we say finance lease, nag-transfer substantially yung risks in regards to the lessee. So mamaya makikita nyo rin yung mga conditions for that. So meron din tayong mnemonics. And then for operating lease, ayan, hindi nag-transfer substantially that risk. Yung mga risk and rewards ng lease contract. So, ayun. When it comes to operating lease, of course, we just recognize it based on a straight line basis and any other systematic basis if mas applicable yun. But remember to disclose and like justify the basis, state the basis of that. And then for finance lease, we need to classify it further. Mahalaga. We must determine whether it's a deal say direct financing lease, ang revenue lang na recognize natin ay interest revenue. From the word itself, direct financing. So, hindi natin siya binibenta. Wala tayong gross profit na earn from that lease. Therefore, you're just earning from the financing. Diba? So, interest lang. Remember. So, any initial direct costs or IDC will be capitalized. So mag-i-interpolate tayo ng bagong market rate in case hindi siya stated. So, ayun. For dealer or manufacturer's lease, of course, nag-recognize tayo ng sale dyan. Casual na sale transaction lang. And then, of course, may gross profit tayo from that sale. But the thing is, one thing to remember is that initial direct cost, 'di ba, yung mga expense or cost na attributable to the sale and bringing the lease like into effectivity or para mag-take effect yung lease. So in the case of dealer or manufacturer's lease, disqualified siya as initial direct cost. So hindi natin siya isasama. Okay? What else? So, ayun, makaka-encounter naman tayo mamaya ng more problems and other mnemonics. So, move on na tayo sa next slide. Next slide. Ayan. So, for lease liability ni lessee, so, always remember 5 Gimbap. or 5 British pounds sterling. So I prefer personally 5 gimbap. FB, GBP. So una sa lahat, if there are fixed payments, yan, hindi naman nag-exist tong limang to sa commencement date, but we have to include fixed payments. And then if there are lease incentives, let's deduct that, of course. For variable payments, it is based usually on an index or rate during commencement date. So usually meron namang in terms of the rates, there are sources for that, like for example, PSI or say Reuters or Bloomberg. So, ayan. For sure, hindi naman lalabas sa exam niya. Na-mention ko lang. But yeah, we include variable payments and then guaranteed residual value. So always remember or highlight guaranteed lang, which means sure na matatanggap ni lesser yung residual value na yun. So usually these are initiated or these are agreements with a third party na ayan, the lesser will receive like a certain amount at the end of the term. So yeah, we should consider that as well. Bargain purchase option. So from the word itself, bargain. So merong option si lessee na bilhin yung right of use asset. So at a bargain or mas mababa dun sa fair value nung asset niya mabibili, yung right of use asset. Okay? So in line with that, there goes the fifth component, which are the penalties for early termination. So syempre kung there is reasonable certainty na bibilhin ni lessee yung right of use asset, and then might as well say na ito-terminate niya yung contract early because bibilhin niya yung asset. So if there are any penalties for that, that should be added as well. So ayun. So iniisip niyo siguro, meron pa kayang mag-claim ng BPO or bargain purchase option kung meron namang penalty? Well, siguro, since bargain purchase option is at a bargain, kung yung matitipid naman nila, less the penalties is malaki pa rin, then why not, di ba? So that's why some people really avail of bargain purchase option. So that's in practical terms lang naman. And besides, it might be other non-financial factors such as convenience, di ba? So instead na lilipat ka pa or hanap ka pa ng bagong i-lease or bibili ka pa ng brand new, and then why not i-purchase mo na lang siya at a lower price, di ba? Than the fair market value. So, ayan, that's it for Fave Gimbap. Next is remeasurement. So, na-mention ko kanina na ang adjustments na kailangan account ni lessee ay i-add yung mga interest, i-less lahat ng lease payments, and then for remeasurements, well, it depends na lang sa change. So, ang mnemonics ko dyan ay TB squared, or ikaw bahala kung gusto mo ng tabor squared. Yan. But the thing here is baka meron change sa lease term. So that's for T. Then we might need to remeasure and revise discount rate. So we might need to interpolate again, di ba? Or have another discount rate for that. And then if there are changes in the BPO or bargain purchase option, so same applies. Kailangan din natin mag-revise ng discount rate. And then for the 2 R's, the changes in residual value and changes in rate or index. So wala namang change dyan sa discount rate, but we might need to remeasure the amount, diba? The amount of the lease. So yeah, I think that's it for the lessee, for the remeasurements. Oh, okay. So for the leases, meron kasing election si lessee na i-treat na lang siya as expense, diba? Or under a straight line basis. So, if the term is less than 12 months and wala naman siyang bargain purchase option, so pwede niyang i-treat na lang yan as expense, or when for low value items, for example, personal computers, di ba? So, pwede niyang wag na i-elect yan under IFR 16 or leases. Yan. Election lang naman yan. So remember, TV, based on the term and based on the value. Okay. So, for the lessor, finance lease criteria, very important to remember all of this. Kasi pag nakita nyo na to sa problem, more likely, kailangan nyo pa mag-proceed to step 2, which is identifying whether it's a direct financing lease or if it's a dealer or manufacturer's lease. So remember black ops or blops, whichever you prefer. So B for bargain purchase option, of course. So if the fair value, merong option sila, sinabilhin yung right of use asset, and then the amount is lower than the fair value of the right of use asset, and then there is an intent to avail of this bargain purchase option. Diba? So let me check a bit. So ayun, the exact term in the standard is there is reasonable certainty, diba? That the lessee will avail of this bargain purchase option. So for L, it's the lease term if consists of the major part of the economic life of the asset. O is for ownership transfer at the end of the lease term. So if the contract states na magta-transfer na kay lessee yun at the end of the lease term, then sa kanya na yun, di ba? Finance lease i-account ni lessor yung transaction. Kasi more likely magta-transfer na yun kay lessee. And then next is present value of minimum lease payments is substantially equal to the fair value. Pagpasensya nyo na yung mga abbreviations ko. Ayan, but during our time, I think our criteria for this is at least, if it accounts to at least 90% of the fair value, then we can say na it is a finance lease. So, ayun. Ayun, yun lang naman. Para kasing the fourth item is more of like a constructive term lang of the third item of the transfer of ownership, di ba? Kasi parang nag-approximate na din siya dun sa fair market value. So, safe to say na halos nag-transfer na din yung risk and rewards to the lessee. Okay, so lastly, specialized nature ng right of use asset. Si lessee lang yung makakagamit nun, diba? Without any substantial modification. So, ano bang examples ito? For example, lease ng mga equipments na ginagamit sa paggawa ng aviation or mga airplanes, di ba? So, usually there are just a number of lessees for those equipments. Kasi gaano ba kadami ang kumpanya na gumagawa ng parts or ng eroplano. Diba? So, very specialized siya in such a case na pag pinalis mo siya, more likely finance lease yung magiging classification ni lessor. Okay? So, okay. For net investment, actually same lang sila ng basis with the lessee. That's fave game map. So, huwag natin ulitin kasi yan lang din naman yun. Just remember that it is their basis for net investment, and the lease liability of the lessee is the same lang for both. Okay. Yeah. So for sorry, may nag-echo, so if someone can turn off their mic. Ayan. Thank you so much. So, ayan, for lessor, in case it is a direct finance lease. So, as mentioned, interest revenue lang na earn niya. So, that's just the fair market value less the cost. So, may we'll find more problems to sample. Okay. Now, for the manufacturers or dealers lease, of course, nagre-recognize tayo ng revenue. It's either the, mamaya matatanong to dun sa review materials natin. We either base it from the fair market value or the present value of the lease payments. Okay. Now, for the cost of sales, it is also, like always, it is based on the carrying value less the present value of unguaranteed residual value. So, pasensya na ulit sa abbreviation. URV is unguaranteed residual value. Okay. So, ayan. Next up. So, ito yung, actually, napasadahan ko na to kanina. For manufacturers or dealers lease, walang initial direct costs na kinakapitalize. So, yung receivable or gross investment will include all residual value, whether it's guaranteed or unguaranteed. Please always remember. Yeah. While for cost of sales, ang isasama niya lang, 'di ba, is yung guaranteed residual value. So, to state, ang naging entry niya actually kapag upon initial recognition of a manufacturer or dealer's lease is, di ba, nagde-debit tayo ng cash for the cash received. And then for the remaining balance, di ba, we are adding the gross payments for the lease plus bargain purchase option, if there's any, and then residual value, whether it's guaranteed or not. Okay? So that will compose the total value of the finance lease receivable. Meanwhile, for sales, it's either the fair value or present value of finance lease receivable dun sa taas, plus bargain purchase option, plus guaranteed residual value only. So whichever is lower. Okay. And then, of course, unearned interest revenue for the financing portion. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. Sales and leaseback transactions. This is one of the topics that I hate before when I was in my undergrad kasi nasa dulo siya. Tapos parang ito yung part na magre-review ka and you're so exhausted na. So, ayoko na siyang intindihin. Babasahin ko na lang siya or i-memorize ko na lang siya. So, ayan. But, for discussion, yeah, sale and leaseback transactions are agreement between the seller lessee, meaning siya yung unang may-ari ng asset, and then binenta niya. So, nung binili na ni buyer, meron silang agreement na kahit binenta niya, i-lease niya pabalik. Leaseback, di ba? So, i-lease niya yun ni seller. So, he or she is called the seller lessee. And then, the buyer lessor because he's the lessor, di ba? Nung binili niya yung asset. So, anong rin-recognize ni seller lessee? So, of course, there's a gain for the sale, but up to the extent lang na nag-transfer yung right kay buyer lessor. And then, another one is for the right of use asset. So, he or she will maintain, the seller or lessee will maintain right of use asset in his or her books. Diba? Yan, because up to the extent lang or up to the part lang na na-retain niya yung right na yun. So, ayun. Proportion to the carrying amount lang ng asset na nagre-relate to the right of use asset. So, ayun. For the kung ano-ano yung mga kailangan nating i-measure for potential adjustment. So, always remember, we're getting the difference between the consideration or proceeds from the sale versus the fair value of asset. Diba? Another one is we get the difference between the present value of contractual payments nakastate sa contract versus present value of lease payments na based sa market rate. Diba? Again, so what else? So I think yun lang naman for sales and leaseback transactions. So up next, let's go to the review materials. So guys, so we're back. So let me just share my screen. So ayan, start tayo sa theories. So pardon because walang suspense kasi nandito na rin yung answers while I'm discussing, but I'll make sure to discuss to you the rationale kung ba't yun yung sagot, diba? Ayun. So, midterm tip. So, use elimination method. So, kapag nag-answer ng exam, of course, read the question carefully. Tignan niyo kung may mga naka-bold or naka-underline or mga not, diba, na hindi masyadong halata because sometimes naging cause yan ng pagkakamali natin na hindi naman sana tayo nagkamali kung napansin lang natin yung word na yan. Diba? So be wary of those words, not which of the following is false. No, just which of the following is incorrect, but not correct. So, yun, yung mga dapat natin i-watch out. What else? Elimination method. Kapag masyadong complex yung tanong, take it step by step. Tanggalin mo muna yung first two na parang wala namang sense. Totally hindi siya yung tamang sagot. Diba? So, cross out mo na agad siya. And then, based dun sa dalawa mong napili, na most probable na answers, find the context or find the word na baka mas may weight siya or mas tama siya. Or say, for example, like for this one, for accounting exams, intermediate accounting exams, ang usual dyan is mga like actual passage sa IFRS. So those who read the standards or nagbasa talaga ng libro and know the terms or actual words that are used might have an edge kasi alam nila kung ano yung terms talaga na ginamit sa standards, and sometimes copy-paste lang din yung mga tanong sa theories. Okay? So, okay, start na tayo. First is, ayan, which statement under IFRS definition, which statement is correct under the IFRS definition for a liability? So, ayan, in here, you will see a barcode. So, I will send it back to you. Or I can just put the link. So, these are like reading resources if you would like to see the source kung bakit yun yung sagot. Okay. So, okay. Okay, first answer is the obligating event must be probable before the liability can be recognized. So, no, because in a liability, there is already an obligating event. So you will see this as well in this link na nasa QR code na to. Sorry, not barcode, it's QR code. So, makikita nyo doon na obligating event is actually a past event na nag-give rise dun sa liability. Diba? That is an obligating event. That's why it must not be probable or virtually certain. So, I will cross out A and B na agad. Because parang it is obligating event as a condition na mangyayari pa lang in the future. So, C, a reliable measure of the obligation must exist before the liability can be recognized. So, yes, of course, for a liability to be recognized and not disclosed only, kailangan meron siyang reliable measurement or reliable estimation. Diba? So, yes, pwede. Baka nga siyang sagot. Hindi ako sure. So, ayan. A precise measure of the obligation must exist before liability can be recognized. So, actually, we're not using precise, diba? Sabi ko nga sa inyo, may edge ang nagbabasa ng standard. Because we are using a reliable measure of the obligation. Diba? Accounting is not really as precise as you think. There are use of judgments, especially with accounting treatments, kaya nga meron tayong interpretations because not everything can be measured outright or expressly. Hindi lahat level 1 inputs na observable, 'di ba? That's why we cannot really say na for liabilities it is required to be precise. Reliable is enough. Okay. So, okay. Next question number 2. When the provision involves a large population of items, the estimate of the amount A reflects the weighting of all possible outcomes by their associated probabilities. Mukhang expressly mentioned sa module natin to. So, maybe individual, most likely outcome adjusted for the effect of other possible outcomes. Midpoint of possible outcomes. Of course, not midpoint. That's not the most reliable measure, of course. Statistically speaking, is the average, diba? Between the mode, median, and mean. It's the mean that we're getting. Okay. Midpoint, no. Next, B is determined as the individual most likely outcome. So, why not B or D? Individual? Because of the word individual, diba? Because the question mentions that it is a large population of items. And in accounting, remember our core principles na we should always consider the cost versus the benefit, diba? So we wouldn't use so much time to assess it individually, especially if there's a large amount of population or large amount of items. So definitely it's A. It's outrightly stated na rin sa module. So A, we weight all possible outcomes by their associated probabilities. So that is called the expected value or the best estimate, diba? So yeah. 3, which statement is correct where the expenditure required to settle a provision is expected to be reimbursed by another party. So A, in the income statement, the expense relating to the provision may be presented net of the reimbursement, which is correct. It is in the standards that in P&L, pwede mo siya i-net. Next, the reimbursement shall not be treated as separate asset but netted against estimated liability for the provisions. So I'm doubtful kasi naka-state expressly sa standard na dapat i-present mo siya separately. Present mo separately yung asset and yung liability. Hindi mo siya pwedeng inet. Okay. So, see the amount the reimbursement shall not exceed. Okay. Sige, given na yan. Since reimbursement siya, it must only cover the amount of the provision. So, next is the reimbursement shall be recognized only when it is virtually certain the reimbursement would be received if the entity settles the obligation. So, first off, diba, na-discuss natin kanina na this is a liability. And in liability, the bare minimum is probable. So, hindi mag-a-apply yung recognized only when it is virtually certain because nag-a-apply ito sa assets. Kaya nga, diba, disclosure lang ang contingent assets. Yan. Kasi recognize lang natin ang income or asset when it's virtually certain. So, that's it for number 3. For number 4, meron ulit tayong QR code. Yan, may reference tayo. Ang tanong is, which statement about contingencies is correct? So, first, it involves only potential economic outflows of resources. I wouldn't say potential. Never ginamit ang potential sa standard. I think it's possible, right? B is it is a possible condition that depends upon the outcome of future event. Okay. It involves uncertainty about either the timing or amount of payment. Okay. And then D, it is an existing condition that depends upon the outcome of a future event. So B, it is a possible condition that depends upon the outcome of a future event. So you can like contrast B with D. Ayun. Kasi when it comes to contingencies, when we're talking about conditions, meron na siyang condition. Ang tinitingnan natin kung possible ba is yung outcome or kung how do I explain this? The condition already exists, but the happening is not yet in there. So I wouldn't say that it is a possible condition because the condition is already set up. Okay. While for C, actually, if I were to answer this independently, hindi ko alam yung sagot. Malilito ko intensely sa C at D. Kasi it involves uncertainty about either the timing or amount of payment. Yan. Kasi there are both uncertainties with provisions and contingencies, diba? It started with provisions. Sa accrual, less yung subjectiveness, diba? Yung pagiging subjective niya. But nung lumapag na ng provision, nagkaroon na ng uncertainty about either timing or amount of payment. So, that's it. That's what I discovered. C is for provisions rather than contingencies. So, meron silang both element of uncertainty. C applies to provision. So, D is the correct answer, which is there is an existing condition na nakadepende into the outcome of future event. Okay? Okay, so for reference, just scan through this QR. So you'll see the actual passage if you search. 5. Which statement about warranties is correct? Okay, mention natin to kanina, right? Okay, warranties sold separately are accounted for under IFRS 7. So pagkakaalala ko, past 37, kapag hindi sold separately, Diba? Kapag sold separately, it is under IFRS 15 or PFRS 15. So, halatang-halata na ang sagot ay letter B. Based sa discussion natin kanina. So, warranties are financial liabilities. No, we're actually discussing non-financial liabilities where there are no contractual obligations. So, C is definitely panggulo. Pwede mo nang eliminate agad. D is expected value uses a weighted average of possible outcomes. So, expected value is used in provisions, right? Especially in litigations. So, warranties have like a procedure, diba? In accounting, meron talaga siyang method na ginagamit. Like, for example, yun nga yung box method, yung pinakita ko kanina. So, yun. Ang gulo lang din sila letter D. Okay, for number 6, revenue from a contract with a customer. A is recognized when the customer received the rights to receive consideration. Okay. B is recognized even if the contract is still fully unperformed rather. And C can be recognized even when a contract is still pending. And D cannot be recognized until a contract exists. So, a very obvious answer as well. Of course, letter D, hindi mo siya pwedeng i-recognize kapag wala pang contract because based on IFRS 15, di ba, there are 5 steps um, in like assessing like an insurance no not sorry in a revenue with revenue for a contract with a customer. So first step is to identify the contract with the customer, di ba? The next is identify the performance obligation, if I'm correct. Number 3 is like know the transaction price. Fourth is allocate the price based on the performance obligations. Diba? If I got it right. Okay. Mag-refer na tayo para sure na tama yung mga sinasabi ko sa inyo. So, yeah, that's fourth. And then, for fifth, I think it's the... Wait, For the fifth one, let's see. Yung fifth pa yun, nakalimutan ko. Fifth one. Pasensya na, ang lola nyo, tumatanda na. Kalimutan nyo pang fifth. Okay. We recognize revenue when the entity satisfies the performance obligations finally. So, ayun. Ayun. Okay. First, we identify the contract with the customer. Next is we identify the performance obligation. 3, the transaction price. We identify that as well. For the fourth, we allocate the transaction price to the performance obligations. And fifth, when the performance obligation is already satisfied, right? We recognize revenue when that happens. Okay, so pretty straightforward question. It's letter D. Okay, number 7. Statement 1. An entity shall disclose an intangible asset assessed as having an indefinite useful life, the carrying amount of that asset, and the reasons supporting the assessment of an indefinite useful life. So, yan. Kailangan lang daw natin i-disclose yung carrying amount and yung support or yung rationale kung bakit natin siya treat as an asset having indefinite useful life. So, kapag binibigay daw natin yung reasons na yun, kailangan i-describe yung factors that has played a significant role in determining that it actually has an indefinite useful life. So, I think tama naman to. Nakita ko to sa IFRS 16. No. It's not IFRS 16. It's IAS 16. Okay. So, yan. Statement 2. A reconciliation should show the gross exchange differences arising on the translation of the financial statements into the presentation currency. Yeah, I think that's correct. And on the translation of a foreign operation into the presentation currency of the entity. I don't think so because translation of a foreign operation uses consolidation method, diba? it's based on IAS 39, I'm right? So I think the second part of this statement is incorrect. So I'll say 1 is true and 2 is false. Ayan. Statement 2 is false while statement 1 is true. So, yan. This is true. X, C. Statement. Yan. Okay. If week 1 addresses how the effect of the events that change the measurement of an existing decommissioning, restoration, or similar liability should be accounted for. These events include a change in the estimated outflow, a change in the current market-based discount rate, no, just kidding. But most of the time, based on my experience, kapag mayroong all of the above, kapag litong-lito ka na hindi mo na alam, you pick all of the above. No, ayun. Mahalagang alam mo, mahalagang nabasa mo, of course, scan through if pick one to be familiar of this. But just in case, yan nga, tip ko, if you encounter something that you don't know and there's all of the above, more likely that is the answer. Meron pa ako isang tip from our professor before, kung ano yung pinakamahaba, yun yung sagot. No, but just kidding. You always check the wordings kasi baka may mahaba lang siya pero panggulo naman. Or merong isang word na nagpamali dun sa sentence. So, it's not the answer. So, always read carefully if you have time. If not, kung wala kang nag-shotgun ka na lang, then sige, piliin mo yung mas mahaba. Pero I suggest kayo mag-shotgun. Yun. So, ayun, which of the following is not recognized as an accrued liability? So, utility bills, yes na yes. Yan, received but not yet paid. Declared cash dividends to shareholders. Yes, in substance, kapag na-declare na siya, hindi mo pa siya nabibigay, it's somehow accrued liability. 20% bonus issue of share dividend is an equity. So, I won't say that it is a liability. Advances from customers, somehow yes. Actually, to be exact, this is deferred revenue, right? So you can say that in substance it is a liability. Okay. So C is an obvious answer because it's an equity and not a liability. Okay. So for statement number 1 or item number 10, when premium is accounted as part of the transaction price, the transaction price it's premiums. Yes. Napayas na. But yeah, 'di ba kaya nga tayo nagpo-prorate, if you can see sa module, unang-una is pre-rate natin yung amount nung revenue versus yung amount nung premiums based dun sa binigay niya na cost. So definitely we need to allocate between the revenue for the sale of the goods and partly the performance obligation, which is yun dun sa part ng premium, diba? So yun, it's definitely true. The allocation of transaction cost is based on standalone selling prices of the product sold and premiums. The allocation of transaction cost based on standalone selling, diba? Na-mention natin kanina, unang-una, sa lessee. Diba? No, I'm talking about leases, but yeah, the allocation of, sorry na-confuse ako dun sa tanong pala. We're talking about premiums. So, yes, the allocation of transaction costs is based on standalone selling prices. So as much as possible, when we can, it's always most prescribable to use the standalone selling prices. Diba? Okay, both statements are true so far. So which of the following statements is correct regarding the accounting for leases? The lessor depreciates the leased asset under a finance lease. The lessee depreciates the leased asset under a short-term or a low-valued asset lease. Okay, parang na-mention natin ito kanina, no? Same mnemonics na TV. So, and when discounting these payments, the lessor and the lessee uses the interest rate implicit in the lease. So, ako na-mention ko dito kanina, di ba? So, lastly, an entity can never be both a lessor and a lessee of the same leased assets. Okay. So, for letter A, no, kasi it can be operating or finance lease. It's incorrect. B is definitely incorrect kasi sabi nga natin, di ba, meron siyang election na si lessee, meron siyang election lalo na kung yung item ay low value asset or yung term niya is less than 12 months. So, pwede niya yung i-account ng hindi based sa IFR 16 leases rather as a regular expense, diba? Based on a straight line leases. So, an entity can never be both a lessor and a lessee of a same leased asset. So, this is a bit tricky, right? So, let's see. So, simula, hindi ko pa na-explain yung So, yun. Sa letter C, of course, we are using the implicit interest rate. Usually, ina-adjust natin siya lalo na kapag may initial direct costs. So, ayun. So, it's we definitely discount it based on a rate that was rather implicit rather than expressed. Kaya nga, di ba, when we're accounting for sales and leaseback transactions, meron pa tayong comparison between the present value of payments based on the contract, and there is a present value of lease payments based on market rate. Because there's always an implicit rate for a lease. So, okay. Okay, let me get back to you regarding letter D, because it's a bit sketchy. I haven't really read something about this. So, yeah, I'll take note of this. Then, letter D. Okay, so for number 12, according to IFRS or PFRS 16, these liabilities are presented in the lessee statement of financial position separately from other liabilities of the lessee. Yes. Actually, mas prescribed yan, yung i-present siya separately. Or B, together with other liabilities with disclosure of the line items that include the lease liabilities. So yes, pwede rin siyang isama sa other liabilities, but you need to disclose yung mga line items na included doon. So expressly stated din naman yung module. So I hope na this is something that you know already. So let's see, of course. D, not presented in the lessee's financial statements, but only in the lessor's financial statements. So, definitely not, di ba? Nag-represent tayo sa lessee's statements ng lease. Actually, wala nga distinction whether it's finance or operating lease, di ba? Sa books ni lessee. Basta kailangan niyang i-recognize yung right of use asset. And kailangan niya rin mag-book ng depreciation. Okay. Employee company entered into 2 contract leases. Lease 1 transfers substantially all risks and rewards incidental to ownership of the leased asset. So, obviously, di ba, it transfers substantially all the risks. So, that's a finance lease. Lease number 2 does not transfer substantially. Okay, hindi natin tuloy yung pagbabasa kasi this is a bonus question. Yes. First is a finance lease and second is operating lease. Okay, number 14. Under operating lease, Lessors, A, recognize rent income using straight line basis unless another method is more appropriate. So I think that's correct. Expressly stated then. Any recognize interest income using effective interest method. So I don't think so because this is a finance lease under direct financing lease, right? C, recognize different amounts of rent income each year depending on the contractual payments. No. A is a more appropriate answer because just because this is outrightly stated, di ba? Stated na talaga to na when and it's operating lease, straight line basis unless mayroong other systematic basis na gagamitin si lessor. So, na-discuss natin yun kanina. Any of this, usually ang any of this, panggulo lang yan sa mga exam. So, never mind that. Which of the following is correct regarding the accounting for operating leases? Lessor under operating lease may classify the lease as either direct operating lease or sales type operating lease. Well, actually, there's no types under operating lease, diba? So, false agad. A lessor includes a rent collected in advance as part of the cost of the leased asset. I don't think so because actually prepayments are rather deductions, diba? So that's not part of the cost of the leased asset. So a lessor includes initial direct costs incurred on the operating lease as part of the cost of leased asset to be recognized in profit or loss on the same basis as rent income is recognized. A lessor includes initial direct cost. Yes, correct. Incurred on operating lease. So, yes na yes. Both sa operating lease and finance lease na under direct financing lease, indirect cost are, initial direct cost rather, sorry, are part of the cost of the leased asset. Okay, so a lessor includes initial direct costs incurred in the operating lease as part of the cost of the leased asset to be recognized in profit or loss on the same basis as depreciation expense recognized. So, siguro kung kayo nagsasagot nito, probably ang malilito lang kayo between C or D, but definitely there's no reason para malito kasi, di ba, based dun sa discuss natin kanina, associated cause and effect, ang minamatch natin, kaya tayo nag-estimate is the revenue versus expense matching. So there's no sense on having the same basis as depreciation expense, which is straight line, di ba? Actually, we are basing on the patterns of the rent income. Okay, so for number 16, Dream on company leased its machinery. So, halimbawa, if the machinery is hindi na ibabalik to Dream on company at the end of the lease term, which of the following statements is not true? Hindi totoo. Okay? Machinery will not be reverted to Dream on company at the end of lease term because the lease provides for transfer of title to the lessee. Yeah, of course, common sense. Hindi siya babalik kasi magta-transfer na yung ownership or yung title kay lessee. In computation of the annual rental, residual value is completely ignored. So, I don't think so kasi if it's guaranteed, di ba? It is actually a part of the lease payments, di ba? So, hindi siya nag-exist na commencement date, pero kailangan natin siyang i-account. As mentioned, as included in the FAVE gimbap, di ba? Okay. In computation of the annual rental and unearned interest income, residual value is completely ignored. So, another false statement. Same naman yung basis nila, di ba, kanina. It's still FAVE gimbap. And this is the letter G, guaranteed residual value. And of course, kapag finance lease tayo, if you remember, di ba, if you remember na kapag nagre-record tayo ng sales under dealers or manufacturers lease, di ba, ini-include natin yung guaranteed or unguaranteed residual value. Wala tayong paki if guaranteed or unguaranteed siya. Lagi siyang kasama dun sa receivable. Okay? Or gross investment, ang other term. So, yes. Okay. In computation of the annual rental, residual value is completely ignored. However, is added to net investment to compute for unearned interest income. So, so the value completely ignored, however, is added to net investment to compute for, okay, definitely not true. So, ayan. Wait up. So, no, actually, it's, wait, let me fix my okay. So please pardon my DNC kanina. So but it's not true. So all of these were true except for this because it should be completely ignored, diba? And not added to net investment. Okay. So always remember it has to um for our for our gross investment, it has to be a guaranteed residual value. Okay? So, ayan. 17. The sales revenue recognized at the commencement of the lease by a manufacturer or dealer lessor is the, yun, outright na mention to kanina. Of course, it's the fair value of the asset or present value of the lease payments, whichever is lower. So, na-mention ko to kanina outright, di ba? Fair value or present value of lease payments, kung ano man yung lower. So, tandaan na natin, huwag natin tignan yung ibang choices, please. So, kapag dating na sales revenue, fair value or present value ng lease payments, kung ano yung mas mababa. Okay. So, kung mapapansin nyo, when recognizing liabilities or expenses, those that are tayo yung obligated or nasa atin yung parang unfavorable side, it is less stringent, di ba? Probable lang, pero i-recognize mo na siya. Di ba? And usually, kung ano yung higher or yung less favorable, parang nandun yung assumption na in favor of the debtor yung treatment. Parang ganun. So, as you can see in here, parang yung lower amount. So, that concept applies to sales and assets as well. Mas stringent in terms of kailangan virtually certain siya na nasa atin na yung rights. And then, like for this example, yung lower amount yung kinukuha natin. Diba? Kung ano mas mababa dun sa fair value ng asset or dun sa present value ng lease payments. Kasi if ever, just imagine if the fair value is higher, pero ang recognize natin ay fair value, then we might be bloating up our sales revenue. So that is to avoid like further issues or parang para hindi magmukhang minamanipulate natin yung sales natin, binobloat natin in order to make it more appealing to the investors. So I think that's the purpose of this provision kung bakit lower siya. So remember. Ayun. 18. Which of the following is not true regarding the scenario of residual value guarantee and unguaranteed residual value? So again, which of the following is not true? Okay. So lease receivable and unearned interest income recorded in the books of lessor are of the same value whether it's guaranteed or unguaranteed residual value. So yes, actually same lang, 'di ba? Ang basis natin dito. So the lease receivables should be based on the lease payments, 'di ba? Plus the gross payments rather, plus I remember, right? BPO, bargain purchase option, and residual value, all of it, whether it's guaranteed or unguaranteed. Okay, so B, present value of the unguaranteed residual value is deducted from the cost of goods sold. So, no, I don't think so, but I can say rather na hindi siya included dun sa sales. Diba? Kung naalala nyo kanina yung almost second to the last slide natin, So it is not included in there. So C, tingnan natin kung tama. Baka dalawa yung sagot. If the residual value is guaranteed, present value of the residual value is included in the sales revenue. Yes, yes na yes. Excuse me. So lastly, if the residual value is unguaranteed, present value of the unguaranteed residual value is not included in the sales revenue. So correct din, di ba? As mentioned, hindi kasama ang unguaranteed residual value sa sales revenue. So, yeah. 19. Okay. The profit on a finance lease transaction for lessors who are manufacturers or dealers should, yeah, diba? So, A be recognized in the normal way of the transaction. So, I think narinig nyo na rin to kanina. So, usual entries lang, we will include sales and a credit. And then, next entry, we will recognize the cost of it. Diba? Not be recognized from finance income. Of course, not, because we're talking about manufacturers or dealers lease. Only recognized at the end of the lease term? No. Be recognized on a straight line basis over the lessee term? No, because that applies to operating leases. What is the journal entry for the transfer of asset that is not a sale? If a seller lessee shall not continue to recognize transferred asset, debit, cash, credit, lease liability for transfer of proceeds. Okay. Sige, let's consider. Okay. If seller lessee shall continue to recognize transfer asset, debit, cash, credit, interest, income. So, magre-recognize ka pa ng more ng interest income. So, okay. I don't think so. Okay, next is if a seller lessee shall continue to recognize transfer asset, debit, cash, credit, lease liability for transfer of proceeds. So, okay, we're talking about sales and leaseback transactions, di ba? So, sa module, yung makikita nyo sa last page, yung mga criteria on how we can say if it's not actually a sale. Diba? Let's see. Okay. Okay. So, ang sabi dito, if it's not a sale, then you should instead classify it under, sorry, hindi ko na-discuss kanina sa slides, but you should measure it under IFRS 9 because it was more fit to be a financial liability than to be a sales or leaseback transaction. So, ayun, so aalisin na natin siya, hindi na IFRS 15 yung gagamitin niya, rather you will use IFRS 9. So, so from these choices, we'll outright eliminate B, of course. Yun, so hindi siya sale, so hindi na mag-a-apply yung na-discuss natin kanina na, di ba, magre-recognize ka ng both interest revenue and parang say gross profit ng sale mo na, or yeah, because you're a dealer manufacturer, but it's not a sale, so we'll eliminate B. Okay, so I think A or the two choices na magiging contrasting dito ay A or C. So it's definitely not A kasi kailangan nating i-continue yung pag-recognize nung na-transfer na asset. Diba? So we'll cross out A, and then ayun, if seller or lessee shall not continue to recognize if seller or lessee shall not continue to recognize transfer asset, debit, cash, credit, lease payment for collection of income, which is contrasting, parang it is contradicting by itself, di ba? It will not continue to recognize the transfer asset, but it will still recognize the lease payment or for collection of interest income. So parang sa una, nakakalito siya, but you always have to see the nots, the shall not and shall, and match it with the concept of, or with the entry that it is suggesting. So, then we can say na at the end of the day, ang pagpipilian nyo lang dito ay A or C. But then again, if i-continue mo yung pag-recognize ng transferred asset, kailangan mo mag-recognize ng lease liability for the transfer of proceeds. Okay? So, that's letter C. So, okay, sige, start na tayo sa problems. Pasensya na sa aking boses, medyo kaka-recover lang. So, sige. Madali lang naman yung mga unang problem. So, sige. Ang sabi dito, noong November 20, merong explosion, okay, sa Blue Company plant. Nag-cause yun ng extensive property damage. So, by March 10, 2022, claims had been asserted against Rex Company. Okay? So, yung management and council ay nag-conclude na probable na maging responsible si Blue Company for damages. That's for around 3.5 million. Yun yung maging reasonable estimate ng liability. So, the entity's 10 million comprehensive public liability policy, so insurance to, na parang kiniklaim ni company to guard himself against the risk na kapag merong kaso sa kanya, okay, na meron siyang ma-reimburse or meron siyang matatanggap na at least some of the amount to offset his liability, his liability based on the litigation for damages. So, ayan, sabi doon, meron siyang 500,000 na deductible clause. So, the financial statements for 2021 were issued on March 20, 2022. Okay, so umabot siya. What amount of loss from lawsuit should be reported in the income statement for 2021? So, kung naalala nyo kanina sa juris natin, di ba? Bawal inet yung asset sa balance sheet. Di ba? Kailangan percentage siya separately, but sa income statement, pwede siya inet. So, safe to say that it's just 3.5 million minus 500,000 na deductible clause. So, the answer would be B, 3 million. Okay. Mag-iiba ang kwento kapag sinabi niya ay balance sheet. Kasi we will present 3.5 million fully and separately. Okay? Okay. So, sabi dito, noong December 31, 2021, si Gray Company ay defendant ng isang pending lawsuit. So, in the opinion of the entity's attorney, it is probable that Gray Company will have to pay 500,000. And reasonably possible na si Gray Company ay magbabayad ng 600,000 as a result of this lawsuit. Okay. So, yung unang estimate niya ay probable. Okay. So, that means that it exceeds 50% chance of happening, and that that qualifies as a provision or an accrued liability. So, we'll say na na-record niya na itong 500,000. But since yung next estimate niya is reasonably possible pa lang, so i-disclose muna natin yung increase dun sa estimate na 100,000. So, and we will disclosure of a contingent liability for 100,000. So, the answer is B. Okay. Yan. So, meron namang explanation. But I think na-discuss na rin naman natin to kanina, una-una. So, ayan. Si Ricochet Company ay nag-report ng warranty expense of 1.9 million for the current year. The warranty liability account increased by 200,000 during the year. Okay. What amount is incurred for warranty expenditures during the year? So I think this is a really like basic question kasi binigay niya na kung ano yung movement throughout the year, and that is 200,000. So what you just had to do is to deduct that from 1.9 million kasi nag-increase siya, di ba? If nag-decrease siya, then you might have to add. So it's just 1.9 million minus 200,000. So ang na-incur niya warranty expenditures during the year ay 1.7 million. Okay? Alright. So Stacy Company sells appliance service contracts agreeing to repair appliances for 2-year period. Okay. Note that for 2 years. Okay. Yung period. So, based sa experience niya, yung total amount na nagagastos for repairs and service contracts is 40% during the first year and 60% during the second year. And nandiyan na naman tayo sa incurred evenly during the period. So, we'll apply the box method na na-discuss natin kanina. So, receipts from contracts are credited to unearned service revenue, of course. All sales are made evenly during the year. And that is our basis. So, ang tanong is, anong unearned revenue on December 31, 2022? So, I would suggest that while we answer this question, you also solve on your own, di ba? Para makasabay and hindi na kayo mag-take ng more time sa pagre-rewatch. So, let's see. Actually, I prepared something. It's sad that I can't share 2 screens. So, yeah. So, first things first, compute natin yung total revenue niya. So, that's easy, di ba? 500,000 for 2021 and 600,000 for 2022. So, safe to say na by December 31, 2022, meron siyang liability na 1.1 million. Pero, kunin muna natin yung adjustments, which is based sa box method computation na evenly incurred. So, una, for 2021, so, say 500,000 yun na yung contract sales niya. Multiply natin yan by 40%, which is yung estimate for the first year. And since incurred evenly, yung sales is are made evenly during the year, we multiply that by 50% to get the mean or the average, diba? So 500,000 times 40% times 50% or 1/2 is 100. So, wait. I'll create this one. I don't know if nakikita yung screen ko, but yeah, it's better to try. Okay. So these are the boxes. So you can see, wait lang, check ko nga yung, I'm not sure if nakikita nyo, but hopefully nakikita nyo itong mini board ko. So, yan. 500,000 yung unang sale niya for 2021. So, this is the half of the box, meaning 500,000 times 40% times 1/2. So that's 100. And that will be the only adjustment that you'll have for 2021. Okay? Ito yung magiging earned portion mo. For 2022, you apply that as well based dun sa first year percentage and first year sales. Yeah. So you just copy this and you'll get 100,000 as well. But for the second percentage, 'di ba? Sabi doon 60% na. So magbabago na yung storya. Magiging 500 times 60% times 1/2. So that's 150,000. So ito na yung second half ng 2022. So actually mas mabilis to ituro kapag nasa class kasi may board, but I hope na meron na rin kayong background from your professors, diba? So for the second year, of course, nagkaroon ka na ng sale ng 2022 eh. That's 600,000. So, you'll apply what you did here in 2021. So,
Ma'am, excuse me po.
Yes? Sorry?
Medyo nag-blurry po, ma'am, yung nasasama po
Okay,
sa
sige.
blurry.
Okay. Wait, let me see. Let me po sharing and see in Zoom. Nga pala, meron akong virtual background. Sorry for that. Okay. So, wait lang. I'll stop sharing for a bit para makita ko yung sarili ko. Yan, sorry na guys. So, okay, wait. I'll remove my virtual background quickly lang. Okay. There you go. So, ayan. Wait lang. Nagme-mirror ba sa inyo?
Tama lang naman
Nagmi-mirror
po,
na.
ma'am. Okay naman na po.
Tama lang. Okay, great. So, ayan. Sorry, na-miss ko yung detail na yan. So, ayan. Ayan. As mentioned, for 2021, this is 100,000. We multiplied the first year sales by 40% times 50%. So, the approach that you did here is the same thing that you will do with the 2022 sales. So, since it's the first year of this, it's just 600,000, the second year sales or 2022 sales, times 60, times 40% rather, times 50%. So, that would be 120,000. So, ayan. We'll just add them up. For 2021, 100,000 lang yung na-earn. Diba? For 2022, add natin lahat to. Okay? 100,000 plus 150,000 plus another 120,000. So, in total, that's 370,000. Diba? So, ayan. So, you'll get a total earned of 470,000. Now, let's go back to the problem. I'll show you a different method kasi this is a method na parang it won't work with everyone, the box method, kasi there are people who would like prefer it to solve line by line. Kasi ako personally, hindi ko rin preferred yung box method. Sa una, kailangan si box method para maintindihan mo siya. But as you go along, you'll realize na mas madali kung numbers na lang yung isusulat mo. So, let's see the solution. Ayan. So, actually, it's the same approach lang. Ang difference lang is this is in standard solution format. Diba? So, ang total revenue is 1.1 million. And then, the solution computed very much the same with how we computed it in the box method. So the first year sales times half of it times first year percentage. Yeah, and then the first year sales times another half of it for 2022. And then contract revenue in 2022, I think this should be in this line rather. Not in this line, but yeah, anyway, 500,000 times half of it times 60%. This is for the second year na, diba? Second year na based dun sa 2021 sales. Diba? Second year na neto ng warranty. Meaning. So, yeah, it's 150,000. And then contract revenue in 2022, this is based on 2022 sales times 40% since first year ng warranty niya, times 50% or one half. So that's 120%. So, di ba, same lang tayo nung nakuha. It's 370,000. Right? So, ayun. We just add them up. So, for 2021, sabi sa inyo, dapat itong contract revenue 2022, dito siya nakatapat sa second line. Kasi isa lang, di ba, based dun sa box method, isa lang yung sa 2021. Di ba? So, 100,000 lang for 2021, and then for 2022, it's 270,000. So, we add them up, we get 470,000. Deduct lang natin dun sa total amount ng revenue. Then, we'll get the unearned portion, which is 630,000. Okay? So, that will be the unearned contract revenue as of December 31, 2022. Okay. Okay. So, it's 3:49 again. So, let's have another break for 10 minutes. But before that, before we continue, are there any questions or clarifications na baka napabilis ako or what? Okay.
Wala po.
Wala naman. Okay, thank you so much. If there is anything that I can help you with, just put in the chat. Okay, and let's take a break and get back at 4 o'clock p.m. Thank you, officer. So, okay. Let me share my screen now. Sana okay pa yung boses ko. So, ayan. Next problem. Problem number 5 is about bonus. So, I hope you're ready na. No? So, sige mo start na. Recorded naman siya. So, okay. There's bonus agreement with Kudo Company. Sabi doon, magpo-provide siya kay general manager ng annual bonus. of 12% ng net income after bonus and tax. So, kung ang income tax rate ay 30%, yung general manager daw ay nakatanggap ng 300,000 for the current year as a bonus. So, ang tanong, what is the income before bonus and tax? Rounded off to the nearest peso. So, okay. Okay, let's start. So, ang income after bonus and tax ay 300,000 as stated in here. Diba? So, first, divide mo siya dun sa given na percentage, 12%, and you'll get the income after tax. Diba? Income after bonus and tax na. So, 2.5 million. So, income after tax should be 2.5 million times 70%. Diba? Kasi 30% yung tax rate. So 100 minus 70 is minus 30 rather is 70%. So okay, wait, let's continue. Okay, so let me check. Income after before bonus and taxes. So yeah, I think this is a typographical error. It should be divided by 70%. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry for the quick pause. So yeah, it should be divided by instead of multiplied. Kasi diba nakuha na natin yung income after bonus and tax. So para makuha natin yung income after the tax lang. So we need to divide it by 100% minus 30% na income tax. So basically that's 2.5 million divided by 70%. And then we'll get 3,571,429. So we'll just add 300,000 into that para makuha natin yung before bonus. Kasi ito is before tax na yan eh. Na-work back na natin to. So just add 300,000. Then we'll get 3.8 million, which is letter D. So honestly, this is way easier for a bonus problem. Diba? Ang usual problem kasi is you will get the bonus and the tax for a bonus that's computed after bonus and tax. So I hope that you are familiar with that na. Diba? It's you will use algebra using it, but I trust that it was discussed multiple times na to you, like 2 subjects already discussed it, so I will not discuss it further. I know you're very expert na on this side. So punta na tayo sa okay. Si Black Org Company daw ay nagbebenta ng perishable electronic products which are shipped in reusable containers. Okay. So, nagbabayad ang customer ng deposit. So, this is a deposit problem. The deposit is equal to the container cost. Okay. So, si customer ay nakaka-receive ng refund kapag natanggap niya, kapag naibigay niya na yung container. So, during the year, yung deposits na na-collect sa container ay 1 million. Okay. So, deposits are forfeited kapag yung container ay hindi na-return within 18 months. So, yung containers na hawak ni customer at the beginning of the year, total 430,000. So, the refunded deposit was 480,000 and the deposits forfeited is 5% of the deposits collected during the year. So, that's 5% of 1 million, right? So, that's 1 million times 5% is 50,000. Okay, so in solving this problem, I would suggest using a key account. So, sige, start tayo. First, ang beginning balance ay 430,000. Okay, so during the year, merong 1 million rather na deposits na na-issue. Okay. So, let's add 1 million. And then, merong na-refund na 480,000. So, that's a debit to the liability. Deduction siya. So, sana makikita niyo pa ito mamaya. Gusto nitinta ko. Okay. And then, there are forfeited deposits, meaning nag-lapse na yung 18 months. So, that's Yan, yung 1 million times 5%, which is 50,000. So that's a deduction as well. So with that, we'll get 900,000. So, ayan. Sana nakikita nyo to. So this is the fee account. So we'll start by the credit balance, di ba, ng 430,000 plus lahat ng na-ship na containers. So that's 1 million, another credit. And then, ibawas lang natin lahat ng na-refund and lahat ng na-forfeit. Then we'll get the ending balance, which is 900,000 credit. So that's letter A. Okay. Okay, so same lang yan. Okay. So, number 7, si Hattori Corporation ay nagbebenta ng GC na redeemable lang kapag bumili ng merchandise. Yan. So, yung certificates ay merong expiration date na 2 years after ma-issue. Then, upon redemption or expiration, nagbibigay si Siomai ng upon redemption or expiration, Siomai recognizes unearned revenue as realized. So I think this is just a typographical error. So that should be Hattori. So data for the year are as follows. Unearned revenue, January 1, 2021, 5 million. So that's the beginning balance. Lahat ng nabenta ay 14.5 million. Na-redeem ay 9.9 million. At nag-expire ay 450,000. Cost of goods sold is 60%. So ang tanong, magkano ang i-report na unearned revenue sa December 31, 2021. So, actually, this will be easily solved din using a T account. Pero since alam niyo na you can solve by yourselves dyan, so let's just begin with unearned revenue, credit balance of 5 million. And then, we'll add lahat ng nabentang GC. So that's our liability habang hindi pa siya nakiklaim. So let's add 14.5 M. Will get 19,500,000. Then, ang sabi may na-redeem daw na 9.9 million. So, ibawas natin siya. And then, lahat ng nag-expire, di ba? Because that's a gain to us. Gain na natin yun na nag-expire siya na hindi nila nakiklaim. Diba? So, tanggalin na natin siya sa unearned revenue because it's already a gain. So, the result would be 9,150,000. So, nandito rin yun sa solution. That's letter D. Okay. So, number 8. Okay. Vermouth Company, retailer of electrical goods or dissipates in a customer loyalty program operated by an airline. Parang na-example ko ito kanina. So, yan. Ang entity na yun ay nag-grant sa program members nila ng 100 travel points for every 1,000 spent on electrical goods. Okay, noted. Program members can redeem the points for travel with airlines subject to availability, the entity pays the airline 60 pesos for each point. During the year, the entity sold electrical goods for consideration totaling 4.5 million. Okay, note that, 4.5 million. So, that is the standalone selling price. Okay, great. And granted 5,000 points with standalone selling price of 1,000 points. Okay. So, how much is the net revenue from the points? Okay. Sige. Start tayo kay 4.5 million na sale ng electrical goods. Divide natin yun dun sa ratio. Ito yung nabanggit sa second sentence. Sabi niya, nagpipay daw sila ng 100 travel points for every 1,000 spent on electrical goods. So, divide natin siya by 1,000. We'll get, 4,500. Diba? Times 100, we'll get 450,000. So, yun yung total nila na na-earn. So, wag agad i-circle ang letter C kasi meron pang cost, di ba? Ang sabi dito, binabayad daw ni Vermouth Company ay 60% for each point. So, okay. 60 times yung nag-grant nila na 5,000 points as mentioned dito. Ayan. So, we'll get 300,000. Okay? So, 450,000 minus 300,000 is 150. So, yun yung net revenue. Diba? Na-reduce mo na yung cost. That's why it is important to note whether it's net or gross. Yan. Kasi baka mapahamak tayo at bilugan natin ang 450,000. Okay? Okay. Next is number 9. During the current year, Bourbon Company sold 80,000 reversible belt under a new sales promotional program. So, ang bawat belt daw ay merong isang coupon na nag-entitle sa customer ng 50 cash rebate. The entity estimated that 70% of the coupons will be redeemed, even though only 35% has been processed through the year. Okay, so what is the amount of rebate liability? Okay, so let's see. Okay, let's start with 80,000 reversible bits. Diba? Multiply natin siya by the amount of cash entitlement, diba? For each belt, which is 50 pesos. So that's 4 million in total. Kaso, hindi naman lahat yun ay may estimate natin na mare-redeem. 70% lang. So we'll get 2.8 million. Okay. So leave natin yung 2.8 million. Okay. Okay, next thing is sabi doon, 35,000 lang daw yung na-process during the year. So we just multiply 35,000 by 50. That's 1,750,000. So ibawas natin yung na-compute natin na total estimated, di ba? Kasi that is the amount of liability. Ang debit natin doon ay warranty expense, debit, credit, warranty, liability, 2.8 million. Tapos once na na-process na siya, ang magiging entry natin ay debit, warranty, liability, then credit, yung cash or materials, or whatever is used. So in this case, cash. So we will credit rather 35 times 50, which is 1.75 million. So therefore, yung liability mo na 2.8 million, mababawasan na ng 1.75 million, and that will be 1,050 or 1,050,000 rather. So that is letter C. Okay. So for number 10, Haibara Eye Company inaugurated a sales promotional campaign on September 1, 2020 and is desired to improve sales. So si Siomai ay nag-place ng coupon redeemable for a premium in each ream of bond paper sold. Okay. So meron daw premium for each ream na nabenta. Tapos ang bawat premium ay nagkakahalaga ng 50 pesos. Tapos ang kailangan mo ay 5 coupons para maka-receive ka ng premium plus additional 15 pesos. So, ibig sabihin, merong cash outflow si customer. Magbabayad muna siya ng 15 pesos bago niya ma-redeem yung each premium. Okay? So, ang estimate nila is 70% lang ng coupons ang na na-issued ang mara-redeem. Okay. So, for the 4 months na nag-end ng December 31, 2020, merong 500,000 reams na nabenta. Okay. Tapos, Siomai na naman. No, it's Haibara Eye. Okay. Si Haibara Eye ay nakabili ng 5,000 premiums for the year. Yun. So, meaning, ito yung entry natin sa inventory, right? 50,000 times 50. Okay. And then, 200,000 na coupons yung na-redeem. Okay. So, the company treated the premium as a selling expense. How much is the estimated liability for premium claims outstanding on December 31, 2020? Okay, sige. Start tayo. Start tayo dun sa nabenta niya na reams ng bond paper. So, that's 500,000. Multiply natin sa 70% na estimate nila na mare-redeem during the year. Okay. That's 350,000 na mare-redeem minus lahat ng na-redeem during the year, which is this 200,000. Yan. We'll get 150,000 coupons. Pero, remember, kailangan mag-surrender ni customer ng 5 coupons, di ba? Para maka-receive siya ng isang premium. So, divide pa natin ito by 5. Yan. Then, we'll get 30. Okay. So, multiply natin by the cost. So, remember na kahit na 50,000 yung total cost nung cost ng bawat premium, dapat i-note natin na mayroong additional 15 na babayaran si customer. So, it was like 35 pesos lang yung ginastos ni Haibara I Company for those premiums. So, 30,000 times 35, which is 50 minus 15, is 1,050,000. So, ayun. Pag nakakita kayo ng ganyan, just reduce it by the amount paid by the customer. Okay. Yan. Okay. Next is, sabi dito, si Kagura Company daw ay nag-enter sa isang 10-year. Oh, nasa lease na tayo. Okay? Non-cancelable lease requiring year-end payments of 100,000 per year. So, ang incremental borrowing rate is 12%, while the lessor's implicit rate known to Kagura is 10%. Okay, so remember, ang discussion natin kanina, di ba, ang ginagamit ay implicit interest rate. So, kapag binigyan ka ng incremental borrowing rate, huwag mo siya pansinin kung merong implicit interest rate. Pero kung wala, that's the time na pwede mong gamitin si incremental borrowing rate. Okay. So, ayan. Pero, consider nyo rin na kung sa problem, pwede mong makompute yung implicit interest rate, nagbigay siya ng variables para makompute mo or ma-interpolate mo, then yun muna yung i-compute mo. Pero kung wala na talaga sa problem na ibang rate na ma-exploit or wala ka na talaga makakompute, then get the incremental borrowing rate. Okay? Okay, so, the good thing about this problem is given na yung present value factors, so you don't need to compute. Yeah. But, ayan, present value factors for an ordinary annuity for 10 periods are 6.145 at 10% and 5.65 at 12%. So, remember, di ba, ang discussion natin kanina, kapag end of the year, so as you can see, year-end payments to, ang ginagamit, ordinary annuity. Nasa dulo yung annuity. Okay? So, given na 10% yung implicit rate, we'll get 6.145. So, next is, ang sabi, ownership of the property will remain with the lessor. So, walang transfer of ownership, walang bargain purchase option. May estimated economic life na 12 years. Okay. What amount should Kagura capitalize for this leased property on January 2? So, yeah. We'll just get the present value of the rentals. So, this was an easy problem. Actually, if I were to make an exam, or I don't know, baka ganito rin ang idea ng examiner nyo, is I will ask for multiple balances or amounts for a single problem, di ba? Mas tipid sa page, mas tipid sa effort kasi isang problem lang binasa mo. So, ayan, be prepared for those na cases type ng questions. But this one is pretty easy. It's just 100,000 na payments, periodic payments, times the present value factor of implicit rate. Okay. So, yeah. Alice incorporated leased equipment for the entire 9-year useful life. Light? Okay, life agreeing to pay 500,000 at the start of the lease term on December 31, 2020, and 500,000 annually on each December 31 for the next 8 years. Okay. Okay, so same lang naman. Ang difference lang is wala. Same lang talaga ng amount. Okay. The present value noong December 31, 2020 ay known to be 10% yung implicit rate. So, that was 3,165,000. Okay. So, pretty easy problem because binigay niya na din yung present value. So, the December 31, 2020 present value of the lease payments using incremental borrowing rate of 12% was 2,985. What amount should Alice report as lease liability in its December 31, 2021 balance sheet. So remember, if there's an implicit rate, we'll use the implicit rate. Okay, so yeah, let's see how it is computed. So yeah, yung present value niya, 3165, lift lang natin, times deducted by any payment. So, di ba ang sabi, 500,000 binayaran niya noong December 31, 2020. So, ayan. Nung nagbayad na siya for 2020, so less mo ng 500,000. Ito yung balance for December 31, 2020. So, remember, since kapag unwitting due, di ba, ang nangyari kasi dito is gagamitan mo ng ordinary annuity iba, and then yung isa is unwitting due kasi nagbayad siya at the beginning of the lease term. So, ang present value nun is ita-times mo lang sa 1 because it happened now at this moment. So, that's fairly 500,000 lang yung ita-deduct mo. But for December 31, 2021, okay, dun na magkakaroon ng difference kasi meron ka ng interest na i-recognize. So, yung payment mo na 500,000, iles mo doon yung attributable sa interest. Diba? So, since implicit na siya, multiply mo na lang siya dun sa balance. So, 2,665 times 10%, 166,500, bawas mo lang dun sa 500,000. So, that's 232,500 na principal payment mo for December 31, 2021. So, para makuha mo yung outstanding na lease liability mo, multiply mo lang siya dun sa, laging multiply na sabi ko. So, i-deduct mo lang siya dun sa beginning balance ng December 30, nung 2021 rather. So, that's 2.665 million minus 233,500, and you'll get 2,431,500. So, that's letter B. So, I hope clear naman tayo dun is, the thing with this problem lang naman is you need to roll the balances. Diba? So, ayun. And remember to discount the next payment kasi hindi mo na siya binayaran now dun sa commencement date. Diba? So, appropriately dapat discounted na siya. Okay. So, next. Mukhang mahilig sa ML ang gumawa ng exam. Okay. On January 1, 2020, Valer Company entered into an 8-year lease of a floor building with a useful life of 15 years. Okay. So, based on the life, we can safely say that it is an operating lease. Pero tingnan pa natin yung other info. Sabi dito, for the first 3 years, ang annual rental niya ay 300,000. Okay? For the next 5 years, ang payment niya ay 400,000. So, ang implicit interest rate ay 10%. So, ang present value of an ordinary annuity at the end of each period is 2.49. So, ayun. So, okay. So, next, for 5 periods naman ay 3.79. And for 3 periods is 0.75. So, okay. The lease provides for neither a transfer of title nor a purchase option. Okay, so what is the lease liability on January 1, 2020 and December 31, 2023? So, for January 1, 2020, kailangan natin siyang i-discount. Yan. Kasi if, normally, kapag ang operating lease, di ba, ay hindi naman masyadong material yung effect ng present value or ng interest is normally straight line basis na lang siya as in normal gross payments. But in this case, we need to discount. So, okay. For the first 3 years, ang sabi dito ay 300,000 yung payment. So, multiply natin siya dun sa periodic payments na present value ng ordinary annuity, which is 2.49. So, remember, pag periodic payments tayo, laging ang present value, whether it's ordinary annuity or annuity due, dapat lagi yung more than 1. Diba? Okay. So, 2.49. Ayun. And then we'll get 747,000. Now, for the next 5 years naman, ang sabi is 400,000 yung payment. So, multiply lang natin by the PVF of ordinary annuity for 5 periods. So, safe to say that's 3.79. Kasi given na naman. So, safe na safe talaga siya. So, ayun. But the thing is, you need to multiply it by the present value of 1 at 10% for 3 periods. Kasi magsa-start yung 5 years mo, hindi na now eh. Hindi ngayon magsa-start yung count ng 5 years. Magsa-start siya after 3 years pa. Okay? So, let's multiply it by 0.75 again. So, that will be 1.1 million. 1,137,000. So, ang present value niya, sorry, excuse me. So, present value for the first 3 years is 747,000 plus yung another 5 years after that 3 years is 1.1 million. So, add lang natin and we'll get 1,884,000. So, halata na agad na siyang sagot, pero let's solve again the lease liability as of December 31, 2023. So, this is upon completion of the first 3 years. Yeah. Okay, so we will need an amortization table. So, of course, first things first, let's put on top the lease liability as of January 1, 2020. So, ayan. Ayan. So, nakalist down dyan. Continue ba siya? Hindi na. Hanggang dito lang. Hindi niya tinapos lahat ng years. So, meron ng 300,000 per year for the first 3 years. Yun yung payment. Principal, no, rather, the total payment that the lessor will transfer to the lessor. So, the interest will be computed, of course, at 10% of the outstanding balance. Okay, so multiply lang ito by 10%. And then the difference of that, ng total payment minus yung interest, will be the payment that applies to the principal. So, kung ano lang yung nag-a-apply sa principal, yun lang yung ibabawas natin dun sa lease liability na outstanding balance. So, we'll continue on doing that. Actually, if yung exam, yung midterms is nag-permit sila ng Excel, it will be really easy. But if it's calculator, then you have to be a bit more patient. Yeah, in writing, like on paper. So, yeah. So, just continue discounting until 2023 and you'll get 1.2 million. 1,064. So, we'll discuss na din sa first feedback natin. So, I will assume since wala rito sa questions nyo na alam nyo na. So, yeah. The answer for the second part of this question is 1.2 million, which matches letter C pa din. So, yeah. That's it for number 13. Okay. Number 14. So, sabi, no January 1, 2020 daw, si Leslie, Leslie Company, ay nag-lease ng building to Estes Company. Okay. For a 10-year term at annual rental of 500,000. Okay. So, okay. Si Leslie ang lessor, si Estes ang lessee. Annual rental of 500,000 for 10 years. So, at the beginning of the lease, si Leslie ay naka-receive ng 2 million covering the first 2 years of the rent. And then 1 million, Leslie received 2 million covering the first 2 years rent of 1 million and a security deposit of 1 million. Okay. So, okay, this deposit will not be returned to Estes. Oh, okay. So, non-returnable deposit upon expiration of the lease, but will be applied to payment of rent for the last 2 years of the lease. So, what amount should be reported as current and non-current liability in December 31, 2020? Statement of financial position. So, wait, let's try. Okay. Minus 2 million. Okay, let me just check. Ang tanong ay December 31, 2020, current and non-current liability. So, ang mga cover dapat nito ay yung utang niya nung sa darating na December 31, 2021, yun dapat yung current liability. And yung non-current liability is yung the rest ng okay, ng utang niya. Okay, got it. So, okay. So, yung second year's rent ng 500,000 na receive nung 2020 ay unearned rent income. Okay, so magre-reflect siya sa books ni Leslie company, which is the lessor, as a current liability. Okay? So, yan. Since magre-reverse siya pagdating ng December 31, 2021. So, yung deposit na 1 million is unearned rent deposit classified as non-current liability. Diba? Kasi mag-a-apply pa yun dun sa last 2 years nung rent. So, safe to say na after 10 years, say 2029 and 2030, pa mababayaran yung, or magre-reverse rather, yung unearned rent. So, magiging current lang siya pagdating, yung 500,000 magiging current lang pagdating ng 2028. And then yung another 500,000 magiging current lang pagdating ng 2029. Okay? Okay, so, number 15. Sa beginning daw ng taon na to, si Claude Company ay nag-lease ng building kay Natalia Company under an operating lease for 10 years at 500,000 per year. So, same sa taas, 5 million na naman to. Payable the first day of each lease year. Okay. Okay, so si Claude Company ay nagbayad ng 150,000 sa isang real estate broker as initial direct cost. So, remember, capitalizable ang initial direct cost. So, the building is depreciated 120,000 per year. And si Claude Company ay nag-incur na insurance and property tax expense totaling 90,000 for the current year. Ang tanong, what is the net rent income para sa taon na ito for Claude? Okay, so this is a pretty easy question, honestly, kasi we just get the 500,000 na payments every year. Then, itong 150,000 na to, i-amortize natin ito through that lease period. Okay? So, that's 150,000 divided by 10. Diba? So, we'll get a cost of 15,000. And then, for depreciation, and given na outright, plus yung insurance and property taxes. So, yeah, we'll get a total of 225,000 na deductions or say costs. Yeah. So we'll get the net rent income of 275,000. So ayan. In case na ang tinanong ay cash inflow, okay, remember to apply cash basis, which will exclude depreciation and of course will deduct the initial direct cost as a whole. So rare case naman yung mga tanong na yun, but at least remember to apply the concept of cash basis if ever. Okay, so question number 16. So, noong January 2020, It's More Fun in PUP Company, so cute, leased machinery costing 1,578,400 for annual rental of 500,000 for 4 years. On the same date, the company paid initial direct cost of 105,000. What is the effect of the inclusion of initial direct cost in the net investment lease? Okay, so let's start with the cost of machinery. Ang sabi dito, 1.5 million, 1,578,400 siya. So, Ayun. We add the initial direct cost of 105,000 kasi nga ang tinatanong niya ay effect ng inclusion ng initial direct cost. Diba? So, we can say na ang net investment of the lease is 1.6,883,900. Okay. So, yung pag-include ng initial direct cost ay may effect ng mas spread siya, 'di ba? Like over the lease term. And mare-reduce niya yung interest income ng finance lease. So, safe to say that 'di ba? Ang sabi dito, may gross rental na 500,000. Okay, annual rental payable for 4 years, that's 2 million. So, ibawas natin yung net investment ng lease. So, minus 1,683.9. So, we can expect na mababawasan yung unearned interest income by 316,100. Diba? So, that is because nga capitalize tayo ng initial direct cost na madi-distribute over the lease term. Okay? So, and remember, 'di ba, as discussed kanina, kapag merong initial direct cost, there are cases when we need to recompute for the rate or the implicit rate kasi we have to have a rate na nagmamatch dun sa current na value niya or dun sa fair value plus initial direct cost. So sometimes we need to interpolate. Yan. So, I'm not sure if kung gaano ka-intense yung examiner ninyo, but at least DCAP interpolation, baka kung sakali lang. I know naman na bihira na magbigay ng problem na interpolation. But at least if you have, if you understand, if you know how to perform interpolation, you can like conquer all storms, di ba? Kahit anong ibigay sa'yo, kayang-kayang isolve. So, kasi based on my experience, sa mga estudyante ko on the third level, there are some who's nangangapa pa rin sa interpolation. So, that's really an important concept na magagamit mo sa MS, sa FM, sa financial management, diba? So, better to understand it as early as now. Ayun. Ano naman? Okay, sabi, number 7, kaya ko pa ba company? Parang hindi na. Sorry. Anyway, kaya ko pa ba company acquired a computer equipment for 4.5 million cash and leased it for a period of 5 years? So, okay. After which the equipment be returned to the kaya ko pa ba company for disposition. So, the guaranteed residual value for the machine is 300,000. What is the annual lease payment if desired return is 10%? Oh my. So, okay. Okay, so let's start with the cost of equipment. That's 4.5 million. Okay, and then the present value of the residual value of the machine. Okay, so let's compute for 10% value ng 10% for 5 years. 1.1. And note that hindi niya nabanggit if ordinary annuity or annuity due, but based on experience, it's if the problem is silent, consider it as an ordinary annuity. Okay. So let's try 1.1 times negative 5. Ayun. So if you have a calculator right now, just multiply 1.1 by negative 5 by the power of negative 5. No, not multiply, rather raise raise 1 plus the interest rate to negative power of the term, which is 5. So computing that, we'll get 0.620921323. But for the purposes of this problem, let's round up to the 5th decimal place. Okay, so again, 1.1 raised to negative 5, you'll get the present value. Then you'll multiply that by 300,000. Okay, so you'll get 186,276. Okay, so deduct that from the cost of equipment, you'll get the net investment to be recovered from that rental. So, if this is your net investment, okay, ang tanong kasi if ano daw yung kailangan mong annual lease payment para ang return mo is 10%. So, i-divide mo siya by the PVF of annuity at 10% for 5 periods. So, right now, you need to get it for periodic payments na. So, let's see. Okay. In computing the present value factor, just input 1 minus 1.1 raised to the power of negative 5, then divide it by the interest again, 10%. So divide the answer by 10%. You'll get 3.7907876,769. So round up to the 4 decimal places and you'll get 3.7908 as seen on the screen. Yeah. And then, okay, you multiply, you'd rather divide that para makuha mo kung magkano dapat yung annual na lease payment given your desired return of 10%. Okay? So, yeah, I think that's it for this problem. Medyo tricky lang siya kasi binaliktad niya yung usual na problem na na-encounter natin. But definitely, you can do it as long as you know how to compute for present value factor. Yeah. And you understand what was asked. Diba? Ang tinatanong is lease payment every year. Okay. So, for the next problem. Okay. Ang sabi, si Rambulan Company daw ay dealer ng aircraft equipment. O, ito na naman si aircraft. So, sa January 1, 2020, si Rambulan Company ay nag-lease ng equipment sa panibagong company to another entity. So, yung lease ay recorded as sales type lease. So, interesting. This will be our first problem. Sorry for the next. The sales type lease. So, annual rental payable at the beginning of the year, 900,000 rather. Useful life is 12 years. Lease term is 7 years. Cost of equipment is 4.2 million. Purchase option is 500,000. Incremental borrowing rate is 11%. And of course, implicit interest rate na gagamitin natin ay 8%. So, ang unang tanong ay, what is the gross profit on sale? So, okay. First, we get the present value of gross rentals. Okay? So, yeah. Kuhanin mo natin yung present value ng annuity of 1 at 10%. Okay, for 5 periods. Okay, wait up. I think there's something wrong with this problem. Wait lang. It's for 12 years, 7 years. Okay, so no, it's not 8%, it's not 10%, it's 8% rather. So, ayun. Wait, let me edit this for quickly lang kasi may mali sa input. Ayan. Okay. Okay, continuing with the problem. Okay, compute natin yung present value ng ordinary annuity at 8%. Yun yung gagamitin natin since yun yung implicit interest rate. Okay, so 1.0 raised to the power of negative 7, that is the lease term. So 1 minus the answer divided by the rate again, 0.08. Okay, we'll get 5.2064 rounded in 4 decimal places. So multiply natin yun by the annual rental payable at the beginning of the year. 900,000. We'll get 4.6 million, 467. Okay, diba? Kung naalala nyo, si Fave Game Back, diba, meron tayong, kailangan nating i-account yung value din ng fixed payments, variable payments, G, guaranteed residual value, B, bargain purchase option, and gimbap, P, penalties related to that purchase option. So in this case, wala namang penalties, so we'll just get the present value of that purchase option, which is kunin ulit natin yung 1.08 raised to -7. Yun. We'll get the present value factor of 0.58349039.5. But in this case, round natin to the nearest 5 decimal places. Okay? So, yun. Nakuha na natin yung PVF. So, multiply lang natin siya by 500,000. And then we'll get 291,745. Yun. Add natin yun dun sa present value ng lahat ng annual rental na na-compute natin kanina, which is 4,685,760. So, we'll get the total present value of 4,977,505. Okay? Now, gross profit yung tinatanong, so we need to deduct the cost of equipment. So, in this case, ano naman siya, mentioned naman siya explicitly. So, as you can see, ayan, 4.2 million. So, deduct lang natin and we'll get 777,505. So, that will be the same as this one. Ayan, ito yung discuss natin kanina. Ayan, diba? So, as long as you know how to compute for present value factor, hindi ka mawawala. Basta remember lang din talaga yung fave game ba. Okay? Alright. So, it's 4:48. We need to speed up. So, ayan. For item number 19, sabi at the beginning of the current year, si Urias Company ay nagbenta ng machine. At immediately, linis niya yun pabalik. So, it's a sales and leaseback problem. So, the following data pertain to the sale and leaseback transaction. Sales price at below fair value. Okay. So, I think there's an error. So, I will correct lang din quickly. I think it should be 5.5 million since below daw siya ng fair value, right? So, yeah. Correct natin, it's 5.5 M. And then, fair value of the machine is 8 million. So, in that case, di ba, we'll get the lower of it. Yeah. And then, for the carrying amount of the machine, it's 4.5 million. So, this will be the cost, remember? Ayan. Annual rent payable at the end of each year is 900,000 per year. Remaining useful life of machine is 10 years. Lease term is only 5 years. Implicit interest rate is 7%, while incremental borrowing rate is 10%. So, X na natin si incremental. Ang gagamitin natin is si implicit rate, 7%. So, first things first. Sorry for the noise. So, mapitin natin si initial lease liability using the annual rent payable multiplied by PVF of ordinary annuity. So, it's 1.07 raised to the power of -5. Okay, 1 minus the answer divided by 7%. We'll get 4.1002. Yan, rounded na yan. Multiply by natin by 900,000. We'll get 3,690,180. Rounded up. So, ayan. That will be the initial lease liability. So, okay. Next up, let's get the fair value of the machine. Di ba kanina na-mention ko sa inyo na there are two comparisons that we have for sales and leaseback transaction. First is the consideration versus fair value. So that will be the sales price in this case and the fair value. And then the next is the fair value of contractual payments versus fair value based on market rate. So for the first comparison, compare muna natin si fair value versus sales price. And then we'll get the excess fair value of 2.5 million. So that's 8 million minus 5.5 million. Okay? So for initial lease liability, makompute natin siya kanina. It's 3.69M, di ba? So, i-add natin si excess fair value doon. Okay, initial lease liability na na-compute natin, present value. So, we'll get the total lease liability of 6,190,180. Okay? So, hindi doon natatapos kasi 'di ba, remember, only a portion will be retained in the seller lessee books for the right of use assets. Okay? Okay. So, to compute for the cost of right of use asset, 'di ba? We will prorate, 'di ba? Gagamitin natin yung total lease liability. Divide natin yun dun sa original na fair value, which is 8 million. So, once we get that, we'll multiply it by the carrying amount of the machine. So, remember, di ba, ang right of use asset na mare-retain ni seller lessee ay based sa carrying amount. Pero, kuhanin lang natin yung part doon na attributable dun sa lease. Okay? I hope the concept is parang well discussed by me or well understood by you. So, ayan. Going back, the total lease liability divided by the 8 million na fair value, then times the carrying amount na ng machine na 4.5 million. So, we'll get 3.4 million. That's 3,481,975 to be exact. But in this case, nakikita naman natin kung ano yung pinakamalapit. This is letter C. So, let's sa baba. So, ayan, same lang yan dun sa diniscuss ko kanina. Ayan, like as mentioned, yung fair value ng machine versus sales price, yung excess nun, i-add mo dun sa initial lease liability. You'll get the total lease liability after that. And then, kuhanin mo lang yung ratio nun, dun sa fair value, multiply mo dun sa carrying amount niya sa books ni seller lessee. Diba? So, yan yung i-recognize niya na right of use asset. Okay? So, I think this is the next and last, hopefully, since we're running out of time. Okay. So, this is another sales and leaseback transaction. So, fair value of the equipment is 10 million, sales price 8 million, carrying amount is 5.6 million. Annual rental payable at the end of each year is 700,000. Good thing na given na rin ang present value of an ordinary annuity at 10% for 5 periods and present value of ordinary annuity at 12% for 5 periods. So, ang tanong, ano raw yung accumulated depreciation on December 31, 2020? Okay. So, parang may kulang na data. Wait lang ha, let me check. I don't think na related siya dun sa previous problem, but sige, let's see, sales price. Yun, kasi first, una sa lahat, yung implicit rate niya is hindi given kung alin dito sa dalawang rates na to. But I think based sa solution, if we'll explore the solution, it used 10%. So, I'm not really sure why. It doesn't make sense to me as well kung bakit 10% kasi it never really mentioned if it's implicit or incremental rate. But yeah, let's go around with the problem na lang to wrap this up since hindi naman natin kontrolado na wala siyang given na incremental rate. So, ayan. As you can see, suggested solution, di ba? Multiply lang natin yung annual rental. Again, same procedure na ginawa natin kanina. Multiply natin siya by the present value factor. Then we'll get the initial lease liability. Again, we will compare. Yeah. We will compare the fair value and sales price. So, 2 million yung difference nila. And then, we'll add this up to the initial lease liability. Diba? So, kung ang initial lease liability ay 2,653,560, 2,653,560 plus 2 million excess fair value over sales price, we'll get 4,653,560. So again, same method kanina, ipoprorate natin siya. So divide natin yung lease liability, total lease liability na na-compute natin by the fair value of 10 million. And then multiply that by the carrying amount. So multiply natin by 5, 6. We'll get 2,605,993. Okay. So we'll get the accumulated depreciation by dividing that to 5 years, of course. So I don't think na mentioned yung 5 years. I don't know. Because of the periods, yes. Ayan. So we'll divide it by 5 and then we'll get 521,199. But I would suggest that if you encounter this problem, ask for consideration because yeah, siguro like 50-50 yung chance na tumama ka because 12% or 10% yung pagpipilian mo na totally hula. So, wait. Okay. So, here are the solution. So, I think this will be distributed to you naman. So, this is actually the same as what I've discussed. So, anyone who have questions regarding any of the problems or yeah, like anything under the sun, other topics before just feel free to relay the questions to your kapwa and then we'll follow up. Pwede nating include sa press mat na i-forward ko sa kanila. Okay? So I hope you pick up something in my discussion. So this ends my review for you guys and I wish you all the best for the midterms. Please stay healthy and yan, huwag mahiyang magtanong.
Ayan. Talaga naman pong maraming kaming natutunan sa discussion ngayong araw. We are so thankful po sa naging discussion ngayon, lalo na po na there are unexpected events and yet you still chose us po, ma'am, to teach us. Our CAF was surely appreciated. Again, maraming salamat po. And I think, ma'am, there are still some questions, partner.
Kaya nga ma'am, may mga humabol
Meron ba?
Question po. So, first question po ma'am, how is the box method works in applying warranties evenly in recognizing revenue po?
Sorry, medyo mahina yung audio, Jasper. Can you repeat the question or if not, pwedeng i-type? Yan.
Ayun po, sorry po, medyo maingit. First question po is, how is the box method works in applying warranties evenly in recognizing revenue po? Am I audible?
Okay. Tama ba ang tinatanong niya is kung paano i-apply yung box method?
Yes po, ma'am.
Yes, okay. So, ayun, as discussed kanina, wait lang, ha? Let me just clean my... Okay. So, ang nangyayari kasi sa box method is, kanina kasi ang drawing ko, so sige, let's illustrate. So, para siyang, let's assume naman na 3 years. Kanina ang dinemo ko is 2 years lang. So, let's divide this into 3 quadrants. Yan. Sana nakikita niyo? Mag-red na lang ako na pente. Yan. Okay. So, okay. Yan. Pasensya na kayo sa hindi pantay na linya. So, yan. Okay. So, this is the boxes. Okay? This is the first year. Year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5. Okay? Ito yung years, nasa taas. Then, dito nyo ilalagay yung contract, yung amount. Example, for year 1, nagkaroon ng sales na 1 million. 1 million. Say for example, 2 million, then 1 million ulit. Then dapat may given dyan na estimated percentage kung ilan yung makiklaim na warranty. So, for example, for year 1, it's 10%. Year 2, it's 20%. Year 3, for year 3 sales, it's say 10% ulit. So, ang magiging thing with box method is half lang yung i-recognize mo for year 1. So, magiging shade out natin tong half ng year 1. Kitams? So, yung for first year sale, i-recognize mo yung half ng year 1 and yung half nun sa year 2 na. Okay? So, you will base this on this 10% rate. 10% times 1 million times 50% is itong part na to. So, sige, computing natin. 1 million times 10%, 100,000 times, divided by 2 rather, or times 1/2 is 50K. So, yun yung i-recognize mo ng year 1. Gets? So, yung another 50K, i-recognize mo siya dito sa other half, sa year 2. So, you will get 50K this one. Ngayon, for the year 2 na ng sales mo, it's 1 million times 20%, diba? Times 50%. So, yan, 1 million times 20%, 200,000 times 50% is, or 1/2 is 100,000. So, you'll recognize 100 for here. And then, yung box sa year 3, i-divide mo din siya by 2, 100. Okay. Nakuha ba yun? So, you'll continue that for year 1. For year 2, of course, it's magsa-start ka ng 2 million. Hindi mo pwedeng i-recognize to dito sa year 2 kasi year 1 yan. Tapos na yan. Okay. I mean, hindi siya yung year 1 mo. Ito yung year 1 mo sa year 2. Ito yung first year mo sa year 2. Kumbaga, it's the first year na mag-a-apply yung warranty, second year na mag-a-apply yung warranty. Then for year 2, 2 million times 10% times 1/2. So 2 million times 10%, 200,000. Half nun is 100. So you'll shade out the first half in here. You'll get 100. And then yung half ng year 3 is 100. So, ayan. So, I'll stop in here because I think na-discuss ko na rin siya kanina, but I hope mas naging clear. Ayan. So, for example, sa year 3, 1 million yung sales mo, i-multiply mo si 1 million by 100,000, si 1 million by 10%, then times half of it, di ba? So, that's 50K again. So, shade half of first year, you'll get 50K in here and 50K in here. So remember to divide all the boxes by 2 kasi pa-horizontal yung application ng warranty. So para makuha mo lahat ng na-earn mo, by year 2, you must adopt this whole column. So pag ang tanong is, what is the amount of revenue earned for year 2? 50 plus 100 plus 100. You'll get 250,000. So yun yung figure yun yung amount ng revenue na na-earn mo for year 2, di ba? Kung ang unearned ay tinatanong, for example, ang unearned na tinatanong ay for the end of year 2, then you'll have to add this up. Add mo tong lahat ng to and then i-minus mo dun sa total contract price. So, ayan. So, safe to say na by the end, yan. For example, for year 1, tas it's a 3-year warranty. 1 million times 10% times 50% ulit. It's 50 again. So, ayan. 50. So, it's safe to say na mag-extend siya sa 4th year. Diba? Kung for 3 years yung warranty. Kasi, hindi ka nag-recognize nun sa first half. Wala siya sa first half kasi in-average mo siya. Ayan. Did this answer your question? Or did I misunderstood the question?
Yes po. Sa tingin naman po namin na answer. Meron pa pong dalawang questions dito, ma'am. Okay lang po ba?
Sure thing.
Yung second to the last po is, question ko lang po, okay lang po ba if mag-exceed yung present value ng lease payments sa fair value ng asset for lease at the start of the lease term? Ano po yung gagamiting cost na ikakapitalize as right of use asset if ganoon po?
Okay, so I think there are cases na encounter din ako na nag-exceed yung present value sa fair value. So in that case, ang gagamitin mo ay yung lower amount. So kung nag-exceed yung present value, you'll use the fair value, diba? Kasi ang explanation ko nga kanina is it is more stringent when recognizing, we are more stringent when recognizing sales or assets. Kasi parang ang dating nun kapag yung greater amount yung pinili mo is like you're bloating the sales that you have recognized. Okay? So, ang tanong niya ay sa right of use asset. So, I think I'm talking more about the sales. Okay? So, did I somehow answer your question? Kasi po, yeah.
I think yes naman din po.
Yes. Okay. Parang,
Yes po.
parang may doubts. Sure. Okay.
Ano po, for the last question lang po, ang tanong ko lang po, bakit may computation ng new implicit interest rate sa case ng direct finance lease with initial direct cost sa ibang book po kasi walang pinakitang ganun. And then, in another, meron naman pong pinakita. So, paano daw po ba talaga?
Okay. Kasi ang thing with initial direct cost, 'di ba, kapag in-add mo siya dun sa payments mo, ang thing is pwedeng magbago yung rate. Ngayon, dun sa problem na na-encounter natin ngayon, dun sa review materials, lahat sila given yung implicit interest rate. But there are times when ang sasabihin ng problem is parang hindi pa computed or hindi given kung ano yung rate na implicit dun sa lease. Ibig sabihin, yung unang rate na binanggit niya is hindi na akma dun sa present value na meron ka. Diba? So, ganito, tatandaan nyo, sa problem na nagbanggit ng nagbigay ng present value na amount, possible na itanong kayo kung ano yung rate. So, baliktaran, parang binaliktad lang niya yung problem. Instead na ibigay sa'yo yung rate, computin yung present value. Ang ginawa ng problem is binigyan ka ng present value, ngayon computin mo yung rate. Now, when computing the rate, that is when interpolation comes in. So, yun yung sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina na i-recap nyo kung paano kasi pwedeng lumabas sa exam kung gusto kayong i-challenge ni examiner. So, from the one who asked, I would urge you to, if you can send the question, please, so that we can provide computation for others as well. So, that will help. So, ayun. Pero, that is my answer to that question. Need mong mag-interpolate in cases na binigay sa'yo yung present value and sinasabi ng problem sa'yo directly na kailangan mong computein or hindi determine yung say implicit interest rate. Now, there are cases na wala talagang binigay. Na walang basis yung present value, ang binigay lang sa'yo is incremental borrowing rate. So as far as I know, that's the second in line. Kumbaga, alternative to the implicit interest rate. So, I hope that somehow shed light with your question. But if you want to have a sample of that, we can do a follow-up. Kahit review material lang or presentation material. Just
yes. Yes po. Thank you so much po, ma'am. So, I think that ends our question and answer portion. So, magpo-proceed na po tayo for the awarding of certificate. Ayan. So, let me read it to you. Polytechnic University of the Philippines, College of Accountancy and Finance, Student Council, Academic Year 2020-2021. Certificate of Appreciation is awarded to Professor Lady Diana P. Nolial, CPA MBA candidate, in recognition of your valuable contribution as one of our honored facilitators in CAF Review tutorials. Given the 16th day of May in the year of our Lord 2021. Signatories are Aaron S. De Los Reyes, Counselor Head Academics Department, Aaron Paul M. Garing, Student Council President, Professor Mark Anacito R. Perla, CPA, Student Council Advisor, and Professor Julieta G. Ponte, CPA, PhD, Dean of College of Accountancy and Finance. Again, thank you so much po, ma'am.